Hey, it's Panzerkunz here, and today I want to talk about the Meteor, which is a premium Tier 7 light fighter from Britain. And it's kind of cool because it's the first jet in the game, and it's also the first jet that the Allies used in World War II. But the iconicness of it and the coolness of it doesn't really translate to the gameplay. So the first thing we'll look at is the gun armament. You got 420s, which are pretty good. They're decent enough. 460, and that's pretty much in line with a lot of other light fighters of the tier. See that 350, 440, 470, 380. It's nothing special about the guns. And you just gotta watch out with the range here because if you're firing at range even closer to 800, you're not doing any damage with these 20s. I even try to get a little closer than that just to make sure I'm hitting. But the guns are okay. Not the best, but not the worst. Survivability, it's got a pretty good amount of hit points here. Resistance to damage with the 40s, that's pretty much par, but the fire, that's really bad. Even the A6M has more resistance, but same resistance to fire. But yeah, you can't really take too much hits. And the BF109G has 40, and that's with minus 33. So this can take a little bit more damage, but a lot of them are at 30 as well. So kind of weak. It's tough when you feel like you're a tough jet and you want to go ahead on with someone and you make a pass and then you're on fire. So just keep that in mind. The airspeed, you cruise almost at 600 and your boost can get close to 800, but you hardly are going to be reaching that speed in a level or in a climb. You really can only get there easily in a dive. And with the equipment I have on here, you could take a quick look at that. I have the boost, I have the turning here, the cruise speed, and this for the guns. It's hard to reach this speed in flat flight, and also with only 6 seconds because of the equipment I have on there. That's not even enough time to get up to this speed. So you definitely need to have an engine cooling, which essentially gives you 16 seconds of boost. But you really need to save it because this is not as dynamic as something like the BF109G. Once you're slow, like you're slow. It doesn't have the best acceleration, doesn't have the best climb rate, so it's kind of clunky, I would say a little bit. The dive speed is nice if you can get there, but it's kind of like a niche in the way to use the speed, as I show in one of the clips. It's not the most. I'd rather have less speed and be a little bit more nimble, more dynamic. With the maneuverability, it's just flat out the worst in the tier. You have a high stall speed here. You have a very slow roll rate. You have to be going pretty fast, so you can barely even dogfight with multi rolls. You could turn on heavies and you could have the speed to catch up, so that's good. But even multi rolls, don't even think about trying to fight with one of these light fighters. You're really limited to just dogfighting with heavies and even some multi rolls. So that's a little pain point for me. And lastly, the altitude with the rating of 44, 1600 to 36. That's pretty much just there's nothing special about it. Spitfire can pretty much operate this at the same level as you. Way better than the A7M, but even the Key 84 has a little bit more than you. So altogether, it just falls a little short for me, as you'll see in the score of the Kunzer scale. And I have the Spitfire pilot here with just my kind of basic light fighter setup, engine, guns, aerodynamics expert to get more speed and maneuverability, and then the maneuverability aerobatics expert. And also I need this because it sets on fire so much. So I'll take a look at some of the clips I'm gonna pull up here to show the good and the bad. Let's take a look at those. So in this clip, I'm attacking the military base. I just destroyed this heavy ADA, and we need 60 capture points. So I'm gonna go to this next target, and then I see the enemy Spitfire in here, and I make an attack on him. And his wing was critted, and I was trying to turn just to get the last slither of health, and I couldn't get around, and that just shows the poor maneuverability of the Meteor. And if this was like an important moment in the game, I wouldn't have been able to do this. So let's check out the situation here. Trying to avoid the flak. I'm coming in to attack the heavy, and then I see the Spitfire. I'm like, okay, let me make a pass on him. So when I'm doing this, I'm already thinking, if he turns, I know I already have to go straight. I can't even think about dogfighting. So you always have to be thinking ahead, prepared with this aircraft, because you can't react dynamically. So I'm thinking if I'll do one turn here. He's not really paying attention, so I decide to go all in. Check it out. He's at 59. His wings crit. I just need one slightly more pass. Any other tier 7 light fighter will be able to take this guy out here. But look at the Meteor. The Spitfire's slowing down, and I'm making the mistake of trying to slow down because I just need that last. And look at that. I can't even get my nose on him, and I'm stalling out. So that is one example of that could be game breaking. All I needed was that little bit, and I couldn't even get my nose around him on that. So you see how I slowed down in this aircraft? If you slow down, you're dead. So this is a good example of a Meteor going up against the equal tier bomber. It's a human controlled bomber, and he's attacking our mining plant. So I'm going up, as you can see, I'm at 600. So this is a good chance to see the speed in a climb and then the firepower once I get there. And I immediately put the boost on because I know 6 seconds isn't going to be enough. And I'm able to come in on his side, so he's not able to get his tail gun around me. And I do overshoot, but I'm able to recover quickly and just finish him off very easily. So I definitely needed to have that boost cooler with me because I knew 6 seconds wouldn't be enough to get up there and sustain. So you have to really use that strategically when you're making certain attacks. And this is a situation where I always talk about you can't be as dynamic or react. Look at my boost cooler. It doesn't come back for 45 seconds. And I only have 3 seconds of boost. So if this Spitfire is coming in on my 6 to attack me, how am I going to get out of this situation? You don't have a lot of options. So I take out the tornado and I defend our base even more. So I feel good about that. And right away I dive to just try to get away from him. But I have no boost. My tail's shot. And I'm just kind of stuck right now. And the only thing that's saving me is my cruise speed. And this is a tier 6 light fighter. And he's able to just pester me. I can't do much right now. So my tail's up. And one thing I can say is never do what this Spitfire is doing. If someone's faster than you, and you know that, and you see they're getting away, don't chase them across the map. You're not doing yourself any favors. You're not helping your team win at any cost. So he's chasing me, and now I got my boost back. So I want to get some space, turn around, and just be like a heavy fighter. Put my full firepower to him. And then he says I'm running. Well, I'm not running. It's called a tactic. And he crits my pilot, so I don't get to do all the damage I want. I think I may have been able to take him out in that pass. But as you can see, he still survived. So I have to do another pass. And I know his wing is crit. I know he's on very low HP. And then he crits my wing. But I still know once I get to about 1,000 meters, I'll just make another turn. And you see I had to use the boost there to get that speed. And he's just going to come straight at me again. Like, there's no strategy in what he was doing. He was on low HP. He obviously knew he wouldn't survive another head-on. So he told me I was running. So I'd just tell him who was running. It's called tactics. It's not running. So that's one thing you can do if you're able to get away with your speed and if you don't have any boost. So in this clip, I'm going to show what it's like if you get into a furball with the Meteor. I made the mistake of chasing this heavy into their spawn area, and then right when I did that, this flight respawned, and then the other enemy aircraft respawned. So it's basically like a 3-to-1. So you'll see how you don't have the maneuverability to even outturn a 262 or a J8M. So they both make a pass at me, and I'm just trying to survive because I know I'm more maneuverable than them at least. And then the Typhoon joins the party, and then the Meteor respawns. So I'm like, oh my god, I'm trying to... The enemy 262 is firing at me. I'm trying to dodge a Typhoon. Here comes the J8M streaking in. Here comes the Meteor. I was like, I'm just trying to stay alive right here. But my mistake is I'm in the airfield. And this 262, he's turn fighting with me. And then the J8M comes back. And like, there's just nothing you could do. I know most planes you're not going to win 3-4 to 1 anyway. But if I was in another light fighter, I would be able to maneuver a little bit more and stay out of the fire of those aircraft. But with this, if you're if you go into a contested airfield, if you get into a furball, it's not gonna turn out too great for you. So here we are at the Kunter scale, and to start off, the first rating is altitude. I had to give it a 3 out of 5 because you can't operate at the altitudes that the BF-109s and the Mustangs can, but you definitely can fly higher than the Japanese or the Yaks. But the altitude that you do have, you can't use it as well in the vertical, just because you're not as dynamic of an aircraft as some other of the prop planes. You just can't climb and get out of a situation. So you're kind of just average in that sense. Second one is speed. You are a jet, so you can burn away from people, and you can approach 800 kilometers per hour. So if you get that boost cooling at the right time, you have an effective 16 seconds of boost, and you could really outlast or get away from your enemies, as you saw in one of the clips. So I had to give that a 4. It's not the best speed, but it's pretty good. Thirdly, firepower. It does have the 420s, the same setup as a Vampire, but just for some reason, as I mentioned, the 760 meters range just doesn't feel right. If you start firing around that range, like half of your burst just does no damage until you get close. So I find myself getting closer anyway, getting to like 600, 500, and in that type of range, I might as well just have a 30 from the BF-109 to do high alpha damage versus these 420s. But don't get me wrong, they are good. You do get a good crit chance, but I just wished more would come out of them. So with that whole package of the weaponry, I had to give it a 3. It's just kind of average. And lastly, for the turning ability, I had to give it a 1 because it's just flat out the worst turn time in tier 7 in terms of light fighters. Usually the saving grace is your zoom capabilities or climb, but it's not the best at doing that either. Like if I found a Spitfire on my tail and I can just go straight up and outlast him, then I could give this maybe a 2, but it just doesn't work that way. So not overall a dynamic aircraft, so I had to give it a 1. Nothing else can save it. And as you saw in my the thumbnail, instead of a meteor streaking across the sky, I put it just as a rock because that's kind of what this is. So it's a meteor in terms of more like being a rock or a flying brick versus a meteor streaking across the sky going at thousands of miles per hour. So if we add up the entire score, we get an 11. And as you see on the left there on the legend, it falls under the meh category. And I think that's pretty appropriate. To me, it's one of the older wargaming premiums where they're a little bit worse than the tech tree counterparts, but it's something unique, and it's definitely something unique. A jet in tier 7. So I can't wholeheartedly endorse you buying it to buy credits or anything like that. I mean, to grind credits, but as a little unique aircraft, you get in a crate or something, sure, take it out and you could have some fun with it. So that was it for this one, and I will see you guys next time.